think of a city as a loci. There's an old concept called loci communis, and what every city is from my field, and it's a peculiar point of view, I see every city as a giant ongoing experiment in communication. And that it's useful to pretend communication's universal, and certainly there are people who work at broad disciplinary levels in architecture, design, engineering, traffic systems, management of waste, food distribution, and so on. So every city has specialists where you cross city and cities can learn from one another in trying to spread a standard. For an example, evidence-based medicine is one of those things that spread. But here's what actually happens, which is cities are spaces of such density, complexity, and ongoing exchange where essentially you have different kinds of role relationships with strangers, that every city has its own set of experiments. In networks, there are lots and lots of different ways to connect, but in the end, the organizing forces and powers and communication experiments give a city a signature. And one of the marvelous things about travel is getting into urban environments that look negotiable, like other cities, but all of a sudden you start to look at things and they're peculiar to that city. Yeah, for example, I'm traveling to Tokyo this summer, and what you have is a laterality of trains. So it's not only trains go this way, like in the United States, they go this way, right? And you have to figure out platforms with different kinds of connections. So I see the city as signature places for communication experiments. There's a lot to be learned. We do things differently, and it's amazing. London and Paris are just a channel away from each other, and they're completely, the textures are so different, even though the relative times of development parallel each other. The life of the city gets textured quite differently. There are a lot of different things going on, but one of the shifts that's been going on a long time, particularly in northern democracies, is a shift to a service sector economy. Service sector economy is grows by virtue of communicative labor. Communicative labor essentially is performing roles within which knowledge and performance are transferred. And so the cities become a site for service economies that match indigenous people and talents, rising and middle generations, to particular sites the city is known for, be it a site of landscape, a site of public memory, or a site of craft and manufacture. And communicative labor essentially are people who are trained in either helping to supplement basic necessities or to improve quality of life. As our cities grow larger and as populations get denser, the problems that fall out of living together are going to require innovative communicative labor. That is a way to move beyond space-based anchors to mobile kinds of connections. And what you're seeing is in the 19th century, the factory was the place that enveloped labor very efficiently. Mm-hmm. And if you look at all the museums, the Natural History Museum, the Art Museum, the Natural Geography Museum, are all containers. And what's happened with the contemporary city is the containers are opened. They leave their physical form, but digitally you see a lot more participation and knowledge exchange going on to keep the landscape a lively one. So entrepreneurship and inventiveness work in a number of different ways. In some ways you sponsor a segment of the city, or the city itself renews itself by having dense populations living cheaply, working together, and trying to move forward. Sometimes you zone a city for preservation, and it's beautiful. Sometimes the communicative labor are police powers, right? And there's surveillance, security, order, or policing trash or microbes, right? Disease. And so the city is a marvelous place because human beings are forced to invent new ways of living together. And it's not just, your favorite accountant or your favorite haircut maker, but it's also improving quality of life because there are audiences for all kinds of different things, and transportation and ways to connect. I keep in mind that a lot of people move out of necessity, and they do so in fragments. And the thing to remember about immigration is it's not from here to there, but it's like this. And it's not only for the individual, but for their families, for their money, for their media. And so communication not only is going to get richer because we have to figure out how to live with each other, but it's also going to get more complicated because our communicative networks, right, are flows and circuits of images, money, genes, microbial insect products, and so on. And so we're going to have to figure out how to adapt these meshes to a group of people who are invested in a particular site. I don't think, at least for the folks that we see, I don't think they have a real clear awareness of it wasn't really a choice that they were making when they were leaving as to, let me decide where I want to go. It's like, I gotta get out of here. I'm just going to go to the safest, nearest place that I can get to. And metropolitan cities are where the airports are, or, the major transit hubs are. So they land up here, but try to figure out life after that. So it's not like it's a pre-planned thing. Asylum seekers don't pre-plan. They leave because they're being attacked, or the mob came to their home the night before and they gathered all their stuff and they ran. And then they hid out for a couple of months. Somebody managed to help them get a visa to any country they could get a visa to, and they just flee. So it's not a conscious, planned out choice. People who flee seem to be coming to places where there might at least be one safe contact, such as an acquaintance, a family member, a friend, a church, where those ethnic community members go to. And I don't know whether I can generalize to say that people come here because it's an urban city or a major metropolitan area, but I think more likely that people come here because they have one connection who's willing to help them out. And then from that, and that's how sort of
the demographics of a town or village or a city kind of build, because you bring, say, one Armenian person because they had an Armenian contact that somebody gave them before they fled and said, contact this person, maybe he can help you out or have you housed and stay with him for a while you get on your feet. And then they do, and then finally they get on their feet and they are familiar with the area and they settle, and then more people come because of those like word of mouth contacts.
The thing to remember is a city is in circulation, and part of its populations live there, but part don't. And then the periodicity of circulation and movement from a city to another varies by country. So a city gets known not only for its industry, but also its the way the industry is located to the particular climate and geological formations, landscapes, and resources. Mm-hmm. So branding kind of fixes with an image, but the thing to look out for in future cities is circulation and self-representation. I think we're moving into a communicative century, which I have some bias towards because it's my profession, but the communicatives generation will be people self-representing.
Yeah.
Finding things important to them and creating organizations, if they have time, to take care of needs or improve quality of life. And so you don't have cities with a huge community base. What you have are kind of micro communities and publics of people who associate. And part of those micro groups is how you deal with people passing through, right? Mm-hmm. And to think of a city in motion is hard to do because you want to freeze it and divide it into districts and areas, and like downtown Los Angeles, the bank section, the jewelry section, the flowers, but those are kind of markers of the container culture of the 19th century.